our next topic is another one that comes from the internet. I like to be on the internet and take things and bring it to the pod. And so there is a movement online. I don't know if it got a name, but there's a lot of people saying, both men and women, that black men need therapy. And they say it very passionately when they say it. It's not usually a suggestion like, well, black men would benefit from therapy. No, it's usually like, y'all motherfuckers need therapy because And so I thought it would be interesting to have a discussion with my black brothers here about what do you think about this movement? This movement is very specific about black men being traumatized, about black men being emancipated. No, not emancipated. The other word.
Emasculated.
Emasculated. Thank you. Emancipated. Black men are emancipated.
They do need to be.
We talked about saying shit with conviction. We talked about saying
That's why I did it. So they talk about black men being traumatized, black men being, say it again,
emasculated.
Emasculated. Listen, because I'd have fucked around and said the other shit again. You know what I'm saying? I got no problem tagging in my partner. Tag you in. You know what I'm saying? And so basically they're saying that for black men to live in this society, they are dealing with way too much and they require therapy. There's a big push online. It's on TikTok, it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, where people are pushing very sternly, black men must get therapy immediately because they are broken, traumatized, belittled, everything. So I think I'll start this time because y'all motherfuckers didn't let me talk last time. So I'll spark this one. I think there's a problem with people who go to therapy. I'm going to straight up say it. I'm not going to pull my punches. I think therapy first is a beautiful thing. And I've said that on this podcast before. I've said that to all of you before in different conversations. I think therapy is great as a tool for those who are lacking a certain skill set or are dealing with things that are just bigger than them. Everyone has gone through something that said, man, I don't even know how to get out from under this rock. This situation, whatever it is bigger than me, is more than I can handle. I need outside help. And sometimes, calling one of the guys is not enough. Totally understandable. And I think it's a great tool that we have in the society, and it is more and more affordable since COVID. The price on many therapy sessions has been brought down. That's also a beautiful thing. But here's what I think is the problem. It's almost like when you try a new drink and you like it, you be telling all your homies, yo, son, but this old fashioned is crazy. You ever had an old fashioned though, son? Son, you gotta have an old fashioned, son.
You must.
But you know what? Let me buy you an old fashioned because this shit is so good. You have to have one. And now you just going everywhere talking to niggas you don't even know, like, son, but you gotta have an old fashioned though. You know why you gotta have an old fashioned? Because it's whiskey, but it's better though. Do you like fruit? You ever had your fruit muddled? It's like, son, what's going on right now? And I think that's what happens to a lot of the people who have therapy. Therapy works for them. They enjoy therapy. They feel like they've gained a new tool and you should have it and you should have it. Everybody should have it, Oprah style. And it becomes a conversation where it's like, oh, well, for me to be cool with anybody, they got to go to therapy. For me to have a best friend, they got to go to therapy. If you trying to be my man, you better have gone to therapy. Yo, son, why don't you take 5 steps back, take 2 deep breaths, and maybe have an old fashioned? Nah, I'm just kidding. So that's what I think. I think the problem is people go to therapy, they enjoy therapy, they feel that therapy has become a useful tool for them, and then they become the therapy promoter to the point where they're blue in the face and you're tired of hearing them. And really, it almost makes you feel like, man, I kind of wish this motherfucker never went to therapy because goddamn, they won't shut up about this therapy shit. And so I think that's what's happening. Now, before I shut up, I just want to say, I do think there are some valid points. It is hard being a black man in society today. We've discussed on here many reasons why and how we cope and all of these different things. And if you're new here, go back to our old episodes, check it out. We've discussed
Yeah.
these things. And so, yeah, it's hard to be a black man in society today. Some say it's harder now than it ever was. I'm not going to have that conversation, but I'm just telling you what some people say. And so, yeah, I do think there are some valid points, but I think the word need is where the problem comes, right? And so when you're saying that all black men need therapy, that's when it's like, but what if nothing's wrong with him, though? But what if he's fine? What if he has the internal tools to deal with whatever he's dealing with? Why is it he has to go to therapy? I don't like that shit. And maybe that's because I'm a bit of a rebel. And I don't like words like need, better, have to, must. Maybe that's what it is too. I'll
Talk
be honest,
about it.
I don't like shit like that.
Talk
I
about
truly do not. And so that's my thought. I'll let y'all go now.
I'm a big proponent for therapy, for sure.
Okay.
100%. Always have been,
And have you gone to therapy?
of course.
Okay.
Like
listen.
I wouldn't.
I gotta do it for the people. You know what I'm saying? I can't not ask you that while you about to say, hey, I'm a big proponent of therapy.
Right.
Because
I'm
you
not,
know
I'm
the
not gonna
first thing
tell
niggas
somebody
gonna
to try
ask,
something I
the
haven't
first
tried.
comment niggas is gonna put up, but have he gone to therapy though?
Right.
All right,
So I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think it's very helpful when you're trying to work through things. And I think there's different forms of therapy for sure. Even just like with talk therapy by itself, there's different routes you can take with that. Right? It's not always necessarily going to be go see a therapist and talk to a professional and blah blah blah. That may not be the answer for everybody. I think it's very helpful in certain situations. Um, and I'll probably be someone that would push, hey, maybe you should go to therapy if there are like certain things that like I witness or whatever it is. Because not there's not always going to be an easy answer out there in the world for whatever you may be going through. Um, in all of that, mostly from what I've seen, from what you're talking about, is again, it's a response thing. I know there's like I do see like big movement of black men need to go to therapy, yes. But I feel like that's like a cross section of the therapy movement as a whole, because it is something that like everybody's talking about now, because everybody's like finally like opening them up and discovering their traumas and discovering all these things about
Healing.
them and healing, yeah, and all of that. So I think that specific movement is like just a cross section of a bigger whole that's happening in general. And I feel like it's something that's gotten a lot of attention because that's kind of like another, stereotype or something that's been in place where, men or black men specifically don't have an outlet or don't have a proper outlet or something where they can express themselves wholly. And that's where that comes in. It's like, well, you need to go to therapy, like, and that's kind of where that comes in. And so that's why I see it like that, where it's more of a response to something versus just like, everybody just needs to go to therapy, which is a part of it for sure. Because there are people like that they're in the thing, they find it, they're like, oh, this was amazing, and like this is the answer for everybody, and for every single problem that everyone has, this is the answer. And like, I get it, like you're excited about how it worked for you, but it may not be the answer for everyone, and it may not be the answer for every single problem that a person has. Like, sometimes people just need to work through whatever it is, or sometimes they just need to just, well, I mean, that's life, and whatever. Um, there are definitely going to be different answers, but yes, I do feel like it's a helpful tool. I do feel like everybody who uh, has struggles, or anyone who doesn't feel like they have anyone that they can go to personally, experience it, at least, like, give it a go, and see what it's like. And maybe it might not be for you, um but yeah, and some people, depending on the problem, need it for sure. There is a need for some people to go through it. And it may be a tough experience, a tough journey, because you're not always going to get a hit on the first try. Maybe that person you're talking to is not the kind of conversation you need. Maybe you need someone who relates to you in a different way and can actually, communicate with you, or with more experience dealing with what your specific problems are. Um, I mean, it's a tough road, and not everybody, you know, does the work uh, for, oh, well, this one person, they just didn't work out, and that's it. So they're not going to be able to help me. Therapy is not going to help me, period. And that's kind of like the polar opposite side of everybody needs therapy as well. I just don't need it because this one person didn't work out, and no one will ever be able to solve my problems. So I'm just going to live with them for the rest of my life. And it's like, I mean, if that's your choice and you want to live with your problems the rest of your life, and your life's not getting better, then that's on you. That's really something that you're going to live with. And I mean, that's yeah.
So you mean an old fashioned isn't the answer? No.
Right.
Therapy is a helpful tool. It's a helpful tool. I mean, for everybody. I mean, I get why it is such a big movement in the black, and probably the black and Latino communities, because we don't, we're from cultures that this wasn't something we promoted. You know what I mean? Being able to talk to somebody who we have no connection to, vent and share things, and have that person dig in your brain from your childhood and see how you're affected by things that you've carried to adulthood. We don't do that. You know what I mean? So I could see why they're trying to make a movement like Black Men Need Therapy thing. But I think it's a helpful tool.
Who started the movement? What
I
they
have
look
no
like?
idea.
There's only one person I know
What they look
who
like?
bring it up. Black. The only one person I know is Charlemagne the God. That's the first person I heard talk about therapy nonstop all the time. That's the only person I know. And I get it, but I mean, if you can't push it on everybody, but
Need.
yeah, the need
It's
part is
not
the
a
problem.
necessity.
The need
Now,
part is the problem.
not a
Go ahead.
necessity. In some
Yeah.
circumstances, it may be necessary, but it's not a necessity. Semantics is important. Diction is important, especially when you're trying to deliver a message. Like Jay said, I'm like that too. Some people might hear must, need, have, now, and now they're automatically dismissive towards it. They already turned off because of the way you delivering the message. You get what I'm saying? And I was asking, um, specific, like it sounds like it's a targeted movement as well. It's
No,
not
it,
just
it, it is like a blanketed. It is a big thing, and that's the whole thing. Like this is a specific situation, but it is something that's grown across the board. Where like
like a vast
a lot of
majority.
people, like millennials, Gen Z era, are like, well, we need to have therapy because of all the shit that like our parents heaped on us, and our grandparents heaped on them, and trying to like heal generational trauma and do all this. And that was like, that's the,
I hear
the
that.
bigger part of it. But then
Yeah.
this is also like a cross section of that. Like this is something else that's more targeted for sure, but it's still a part of that whole.
That big spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when something is specific, because I think everyone can benefit from therapy. When you start, targeting a specific group or a specific, demographic of individuals, I think it can become, how can you say it? I don't want to say jaded, but it depends on how it's being delivered. Like I said, who started the movement? You get what I'm saying? What's their intention? You know, are their intentions good? Is this exploitation? You know, are we exploiting some people? You know,
Well,
there's
that's what
some
I'm saying.
questions.
Most of the clips that I see, it is people speaking aggressively. That the theme is that black men are traumatized and broken, and they need therapy. That is the messaging that most
Yeah.
of the clips have. That's why I said in the beginning, it's not. It does not seem soft and sincere. This is an
Mm.
aggressive push for black men specifically. I'm not seeing white men need therapy. I'm not seeing Irish men need therapy. I'm not seeing Dominicans need therapy. I'm not seeing Venezuelans need therapy. I'm seeing black men need therapy. And it's an
And that
aggressive
that
And
that
it's
push,
implies,
and the
yeah.
tone of the video is aggressive.
Well,
a
yeah, and it's
dangerous
implied like,
narrative, depending
yeah,
on how it's being delivered,
yeah. And when you put
because
a big
people could run
blanket
with that.
statement like black men need therapy, why not just say therapy is good for all of us? Why? I see what you're saying.
Therapy
Why?
is
Why
good
say
for
black
men.
men? Yeah,
Therapy is
say
good for
that.
men.
Well,
Exactly.
so
Say
that
that.
that is the whole thing, right? So again, like, so then that's the thing about like the internet, right? You're gonna see things based on like where you're interacting and whatnot. So um what Jay's talking about is a cross section of that bigger whole, because that is something that people are pushing, but it isn't like it's the only thing that's happening. Like therapy, going to therapy as a movement is happening. Like there's lots of people that are like aggressive about it for sure, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh well, this is something that's needed, and uh, all across different levels. But that conversation of black men need therapy, um, it's within that, but also it's because of that idea that uh, black men were have the most heaped upon them without having an outlet, essentially. And what what's being seen by some people is, uh, oh, they're they're just they're not getting help for any of those issues that they may have, and it be maybe leaking into like, oh, their interpersonal relationships in general, and they need those outlets, and one of those outlets could be therapy, and it's something that's needed to get past whatever traumas are doing that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And like Jay said that is what was being said, but it's the way it's being delivered.
Yeah.
It's the delivery, it's the tone in which it's being delivered, which kind of makes you, you know, it kind of, I guess, makes some people feel a certain type of way if they're emotionally invested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, definitely, for sure.
Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, I got several perspectives on this, but yeah, I guess the first thing I kind of answered already when you say the internet. I am very curious of who is saying this because based on what I've heard from you guys, it sounds like more of an attack or kind of a put down than a sincere message to aid or assist the black man. And so I'm really
Yes.
curious, like where this is coming from, like who's saying this? Is it other black men? Is it black women? Is it white people? I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
So I would
It's a
need more
wide
information.
range, and even in that range the professions of people are different. I've seen white therapists, black therapists,
Mm.
uh, professors who are black men. Like, it's a wide range of people who are doing it. One of the
With
clips
the
that
same
went
delivery.
viral,
I'm sorry, with the same delivery.
yes, with the same delivery, one of the
Okay.
clips
Yeah.
that went viral and really brought this to a new level was a black woman who is a therapist, who specifically, most of her clients were black men. She was fired after her video went TikTok on viral. This was months and months and months ago, and it became a huge conversation but she's not the only one.
Yeah.
But she's who went viral for it. But again, I've seen different races, different professions, different genders. But again, my thing is, and the reason I brought it here is because it's not soft and sincere how Nestor is saying. If it was that, I wouldn't even probably bring it here. But it is an aggressive tone, an aggressive push, and the overall theme, the overarching theme is that we are broken, we are traumatized, and we cannot properly operate in society, and we need to go to therapy to fix that.
Okay, so I wanna address a few things. So the first
Yeah.
thing is, it's interesting to me that they're targeting black men. When we take a look at our modern society right now, which group of people are out actually attacking innocent people? Which group of people are waking up, taking their AR-15s and spraying a school, and spraying a mall, and spraying a movie theater? As all the shit that black people are going through, black men specifically, I don't see many of us getting up and saying, you know what? There's a concert going on. I think I'm gonna spray that up with my AR-15.
No.
From what I can tell, it seems like there's a lot of white men who are going through some things and might need a lot more of that therapy than we do. Because yes, we are going through a lot, but we're not taking it out on society. um, we've been dealing with it in many different ways. And sometimes it is having that extra drink or whatever. But we've developed some coping mechanisms that we have not taken the fucked up things that have happened to us and now went back on society. So if we're going to really look at our society and say, well, what group of people right now are damaging innocent folks, shooting up churches and grocery stores? It seems to me, if we're going to be honest, it's really white men that are doing that. And they might
Yep.
need a bit more of that therapy than us. Um, that's point one. Um, I would like to say that perhaps there's some truth that not that black men need therapy, and that might be one instance, but maybe black men need help. We are going through a lot. And if you look at the way society is, right? If something happened to any one of you men on this podcast, you lost your home, you can't pay rent, you become homeless, uh you are in a domestic situation, whatever the case might be, um try to find a men's shelter that's going to welcome you in. Try to find a place that says, hey, we help men go through situations and circumstances. Now, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of women places like this, right? Women go through something. Oh, here's this women's shelter. Here's this thing that's going to help women do this, that, and the third. But from what I can tell, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong, when life hit men really hard, I don't see places that men can go to. If a man is in a domestic situation and he's like, yo, my home isn't safe, what place can he go to? There's very little places in America that a man can just go to and they have open arms and say, hey, we're going to help you out through this situation, young man. Most men find themselves by themselves. So if you're going to say something that men need therapy, I'd take it a step further and say black men need help. We need assistance. We can't do it on our own. And rather than just attacking the mental part in terms of therapy, maybe let's look at some other things. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Job training. I don't know. Shelters for black men, um, places where if you were attacked by someone or something, or some state sponsored terrorism that we seem to have gone through our history, where can we go to feel safe? Where's our safe place? Where's our safe haven? Is it somewhere in society? I've never seen it. I like to see that happen. So not that we just need therapy. Therapy alone is great, but therapy alone is not enough. I feel like we need real help. Where does a single black father go when he needs help? What's out there for him? I don't see it, but there's plenty of brothers who are in that situation. So I would say we need more than just therapy. My last point is, when you want to target black men saying that we need therapy, I would take it a step further and say, well, black people in general need therapy. In fact, there's a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome written
Yes.
by Joyce DeGruy. And she goes into this. And if you guys don't mind, I'd like to share the screen a little bit and just show you a
Please do.
copy of this. I would suggest, if you guys have an opportunity, to read this book. Now, this is her second iteration. It says 2017, but she wrote the original in 2002 and has many talks on
It's on
it. She's been doing it, like I said, since 2002, 2005, around that era. And I've been to her talks. I've heard her. I've read her book. I've met her. One of the top speaking people in our society in terms of understanding what black people went through in this country and how we all kind of need therapy because of what post-traumatic slave syndrome is.
Audiences. I said, how many black people in my audience? I asked them, how many of you have ever met a black person? A black person that will try to be anything else. Did I mention how much Native American I have? Oh, and I understand based on my DNA now that my people come from Switzerland. All of a sudden, anything that I can tell you that will convince you that I'm not black, right? And everybody black knows that. Well, I have another word for it. It's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. Sounds like it's multi-generational trauma, intergenerational trauma, as it relates to people of African descent. Being separated from your native land, being beaten, being sold, being raped, being experimented on, any number of things. As an enslaved African woman, you had no rights to your own body. No rights at all to your own body. And it didn't start when you were a woman. That's the other kind of mythology when we talk about rapes. We're thinking about women. You think they waited till they were 18? You think few girls got to teenage years without. To imagine being a mother. Someone just comes in the middle of the night and says, we have some visitors. They like young ones. So we're going to pass her along to the visitors that night. So you can't wrap your head around that. And we want to really believe that, that just happened a couple of times. Well, according to a mid-1800s census, there are over 600,000 mixed-race babies born. That's a lot of sneaking out bad.
So, I wanted to show that because I'm not about this attack and this division amongst black people, black men, black women. Black men y'all need therapy, and black women, no, now I need therapy. Like, we went through a shared experience in this fucking country. And this trauma has been passed down from generation to generation. So when you say black men need therapy, yes, black women need therapy, black people need therapy, black children need therapy. We have gone through a lot. And it has been passed down from generation to generation. And I'm about healing. I'm not about separating and squabbling and fighting and no, your traumas are worse than my traumas. No, your traumas are like, what the heck? What are we talking about? We have been through some horrible things in this country, and if people are about healing, if this is a serious conversation that says, you know what, we have been through some real pain by being people of color in this country, I'm all about the healing. I'm all about, people like Dr. Joyce DeGruy, who's like, yo, this is the reality of the situation. Let's try to understand this and try to heal each other. Because you know what? When slavery was over, they didn't give us the free therapy. They didn't say, okay, now you're emancipated and we know we did all these horrible things to you. So, you know what? Come in on Wednesdays and we're going to try to work this out. No, we went through more and more oppression and we're still going through it. So I'm not interested in this division that people try to have. And that's why I asked, well, who's saying this? Because if it's about, well, black men, you're so worse off that you need this, and black women, you're doing a little bit better. I'm sorry, no. We've been through a lot as a people of color, and we should recognize that and try to heal as much as we can. And if the therapist can help, great. But I will say this in terms of therapy, and I think Nessa was kind of hitting onto it. Like, every therapist ain't necessarily down. So we do have to do our research and do our background checks and make sure this is somebody that understands this experience. Because it sounds like to me, and I'm going to finish up with this, it sounds like to me victim blaming. It sounds like you're blaming the person that has gone through all this trauma and saying, well, you need this. Not let me help you because this country has been so horrible to you and perhaps you need help. But no, your life is so fucked up, so you need this thing. And that's the wrong spirit. You know what I'm saying? Black men need help. I think men in this country in general need help. And black people in general, because we went through this shared traumatic experiences for hundreds and hundreds of years and has been passed down from generation to generation, we all need to help each other. Sometimes the therapist is not necessarily a trained therapist. Sometimes that therapist is your best friend. Sometimes that therapist is your boy, calling him up and letting him vent. You know, if you want to ask me, well, Dre, have you been to a therapist? My mentor was a therapist. So this was somebody that I was always kicking it with until he passed away. You know what I'm saying? And really did help me grow from leaps and bounds because he was a therapist and a psychiatrist and one of the first black men in America to be a psychiatrist. But he was kept it real with me about his experience and how hard it was to be one of the first black psychiatrists in this country and all that he had to go through and how he had to leave America to get his doctor's degree in Germany because no medical school would accept him because he was black. You see what I'm saying? So these are traumatic experiences that people go through, and we need to kind of understand that it's not about poking fingers. It's about healing and helping each other.
All right. That was great stuff. Great stuff. Let's hit this last topic and